Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Roswell Encina. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for the Library of Congress. And on behalf of my wonderful colleagues here at the library and Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden, we welcome you to this very special event here at the library. Please tell me who hasn't been here yet? To the Library of Congress, that is. Well, afterwards, please walk around. We would love to have you back for more events here, and most importantly, just to see what this building looks like. So if you don't know, the Library of Congress is the largest library in the world. We have more than 173 million items. We compete with the British Library, but according to Guinness, we're the largest library in the world. So we have the papers of 23 presidents. That includes George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson. But most importantly, we have the papers of many of the history makers that you've learned and known growing up through history, whether it's Rosa Parks or Frederick Douglass, or big musicians, like George and Ira Gershwin to Oscar Hammerstein. We have their papers. But the Library of Congress is, aside from these 173 million items, our mission is to preserve and collect and preserve the stories of all Americans. This includes communities that normally have been neglected by history. So we're proud to say that we have a wonderful LGBTQ plus collection, which has the papers of the Mattachine papers. We have the papers of Frank Kameny, Lily Vincenz, Alvin Ailey, Baynard Rustin, Billy Strayhorn, Howard Ashman, and Leonard Bernstein. So we're very proud of this collection, and that's just a very small sample, just the tip of the iceberg of the library, what we have. We're dedicated to telling the American story, and this continues to this Saturday's Library of Congress National Book Festival. So we're hoping that you could join us this Saturday at the, yes, it's free, and it's at the Washington Convention Center, and we have great authors, including, we have more than 70 authors, that is, and it includes Elliot Page, Chasten Buttigieg, R.K. Russell, Trang Tran, and so much more. So again, be at the Convention Center this Saturday at 9 o'clock, and it will last until 7 o'clock at night, so we look forward to seeing you. Now, we're not here to talk about the book festival. We're here because of one person. So in 2019, like in the fall of 2019, some good friends of mine told me, you have to read this book. And you're definitely going to love it. So I'm like thinking, okay. So then, of course, I did. And like all of you, I passionately love this book. And like think, oh, my God. And you start fantasizing, can I live in this universe, where the president is a Hispanic woman and, there's a gay son. So then in February 2020, right before the world shut down, the Library of Congress partnered with the Kennedy Center for a series of events, of LGBTQ plus events, and I had the honor of interviewing Casey along with Jacob Tobias at the Kennedy Center about their books. So we had such a wonderful conversation about the state of LGBTQ plus authors and books, and of course their books itself. We were actually chatting like, oh God, wouldn't this be wonderful if this book was turned into a movie? And here we are, just a few days to the premiere of Red, White, and Royal Blue on Prime on August 11th. So I'm hoping that many of you are excited to see it. But most importantly, we want you to read the book first if you can. So if you've read the book, raise your hand. Wonderful. So I'm hoping after tonight's discussion and after you see the movie, hopefully this weekend, you'll want to grab a copy of the book and learn more about these wonderful characters we'll be talking about. So I'm not here to keep on babbling, so please welcome to the Library of Congress, Casey McQuiston. So Casey, I was telling everyone the last time I saw you was 3 years ago at the Kennedy Center.
Yes, 3 years. Oh, that was loud. 3 years in a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it feels like, a whole different world now, isn't it?
Literally very end of February 2020, and no clue what was coming to us.
How have things been? I know you've released 2 books since Red, White, and Royal Blue.
I have. I've released 2 books since last time I saw you? That's... Wow. Okay.
Like gray hair is telling how long that's been. So.
It's been fun. It's been a good time. I've been very lucky to be able to put out 2 more books, and my 4th coming very soon. And wow. Shout out to everyone who just cheered for a book I literally haven't even told you the title of yet. But yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. I've have gotten to settle into living in New York, and I've gotten to actually go on book tour with my last book, which I couldn't do with One Last Stop, and it's just been wild. I'm very, 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 very grateful.
So the last time I saw you, this was your first book, the one that we're here for.
Yes.
What kind of reaction have you been receiving, not only on this book, but of course your two other books?
I mean, it is so unexpected the way that books kind of take on a life of their own. When Red, White, and Royal Blue first came out, it was a New York Times bestseller, but it debuted at number 15, which if you don't know, there are 15 slots on that list. And it was there for 1 week, and then it just plopped right back off, which is still a huge accomplishment that I'm very thankful to have had. But it was not until, I guess it was probably almost 8 or 9 months into COVID, I remember it being so cold that I was like walking around Manhattan in my parka when I got the text that was like, "Oh, your book's on the list," and I was like, "Is this like? Did this just deliver from like a year ago? Like, what's going on?" And I think, for better for worse, we all needed escapism and joy and warm things to kind of congregate around during isolation, and a lot of people turned to books. And I'm fortunate enough that my book was one of the books that a lot of people turned to. And so it had this beautiful, like almost like second debut where it was, it just took on a whole new life. I kind of thought like, okay, well that's as far as that book's gonna go, and that's wonderful, and I'm very happy with that. And then, yeah, it just, things took off, and by the time One Last Stop came out, I really felt like people cared about what I was going to put out next, and that felt amazing because I cared so much about One Last Stop when it came out, and I still do. So yeah, I mean, it's been a wild, unpredictable experience. I never imagined that this little pink book would go as far as it has. I always kind of said, if it can find its people, it'll do just fine. You know, when I, wow, I hope that's not like foreshadowing of anything. Here, put a water bottle behind it. Actually, I might drink that. Yeah. Put this water bottle behind it. Yeah, no, it is, you know, when we were in the very early phases of this book, when I had just found representation, I was looking to sell it. The hardest part was trying to convince people that anyone wanted to buy this, anyone wanted to read it. And the fact that it was published at all, I was like, okay, I've accomplished something here. I've like proven this to myself. And then to see it kind of take on this new life and really go beyond where I thought it could go has been amazing.
What kind of reaction have you been getting from fans and readers? I mean, I remember at the Kennedy Center, people were kind of like really pouring their hearts out.
Yeah.
What kind of stories have you been hearing from your readers?
I mean, I think romance is so special for so many reasons, and one of those reasons is that it is such an emotional place to meet yourself in, and to meet characters in, and to meet other people in. It is a very vulnerable genre that inspires a lot of vulnerability in the people who write it and the people who read it. And so I am lucky enough to get to share really vulnerable moments with people who are moved by my work, which, I mean, what can an artist ask for beyond that, really? I mean, it's wonderful. I'm so appreciative of how much my work has meant to people who've, you know, come to events and told me about what this meant to them and showed me their sick tattoos that they've gotten. And I mean, it's humbling, it's amazing, and it is like, as somebody who, I come from a background where having a queer community when I was really young and closeted, it was not really an option for me. And I feel like I kind of have this second run at, I mean, not especially like when I was first debuting, I felt like I had the second run at like a coming out and a like celebratory queer adolescence almost. Kind of speed ran it, but yeah, it's been amazing.
So, as I mentioned earlier, we're only a few days away for the premiere of the movie. how does it make you feel? And we were joking around 3 years ago like this would be a great movie someday. Now it's here. You'll see these characters come alive. You'll see Alex, you'll see Henry. I swear my social media is a countdown and thirst traps of all the actors playing it. So,
Listen, okay, Taylor, if you're out there somewhere, listen, Taylor and Nick are like two of the most delightful, sweet, like kind, hilarious, weird people you'll ever meet. And I was lucky enough to get to spend time with them on set, and I just really truly feel not only are they so perfectly cast, but this could not happen to two better people. And I love that even with, you know, the actors strike and the WGA strike, which I am, as you guys may know, striking in solidarity with them, so I can't talk too much about the movie. But which is another reason to love them, that the fact that, you know, they are part of this movement. But I love that they have found some creative ways to still make some headlines, which is where the thirst traps come in. And I'm like, I was joking earlier, there's like this tweet that's like, I think it's about Timothée Chalamet. It's like, I have grown fond of him. I feel no urges toward him. You come to me as a young man who once picked apples with me in Papa's orchard. That is how I feel about them. They're like my favorite cousins. And watching the world fall in love with them is so wonderful and makes me so happy. And I just want all of the best things for them. And I think they're both angels. And I mean, like, Taylor literally would go home after work and like film all day and then go home and like read the book more, like reread it, because he's read it like I think like 6 or 7 times. Like it's a delightful thing to get to have your work treated with love and care by people who could love and care about it as much as you. And yeah, that is the wonderful thing about it. And Matthew Lopez is also an angel on earth, which we know you named your dog after his play. So we know
Yes.
there's 2 fans of Matthew Lopez
Yes,
on the stage at least.
we'll tell you that story later. So, I forgot to say off the top, if you have questions for Casey, we have Library of Congress staff will be here that you could write your questions down on a card and they'll give them to me. And just so start thinking of your questions and just raise your hand and they'll give you a pencil and a card for you to ask. So let's talk about the book without any spoilers for anybody who hasn't read it yet.
Respectfully,
It's been 3 years.
Why are you here if you don't know? If you haven't read this book, A, it came out in 2019, and B, you came here of your own volition.
Yeah, the kid should be in nursery school by now.
Yes, if this was a child,
Yeah.
this child would form complex sentences. And come on, guys. But I will try.
So, one of the wonderful things you've done in the book is how they come out. It comes out in a non-natural way. I guess if you're coming out if you're a member of the royal family or if you're coming out as the first son of the United States, you have some obstacles to face.
Sure, yes.
Where did you find inspiration for their coming out stories?
I mean, I mentioned earlier that I'm not from the most progressive environment. I grew up in southern Louisiana. My parents are both from rural Louisiana, but luckily are both not necessarily, how do I put this? They're both very accepting people. And with that being said, I did go to evangelical Christian school for 13 years, which was a fun time. Read I Kissed Shara Wheeler for more on that. And so, I don't know, the stakes of coming out and of figuring out that you're queer in an environment like that, even if it is just oh, the people at school will know, or oh, my parents' neighbors will find out, it feels like you're on the world stage and nations can crumble if this goes wrong. It feels like nothing has ever been higher stakes. And so, we talk a lot about wish fulfillment when we talk about this book, but I think for me, the wish fulfillment was what if I came out and people threw me a parade instead of getting mad at me? And I think I was really drawing from a very real place when I was plotting that and when I was writing that. And I also, I think, I wanted to explore, what it feels like to come out before you're ready. I think that's something, as somebody who has personally been outed by their own Wikipedia page to family members, which is a joke, you can laugh at that. But it did happen. It's a thing that you have to navigate sometimes as a queer person, because you're out to different degrees in different spheres, and like you can come out to your whole family and take your time with it and do it the right way and make all the right choices, and then like one thing slips out and your world is turned upside down. And I think that was something that I really wanted to dig into as well. And
You aimed high. Let's put the biggest characters that you could imagine.
Yes, no, let's literally, could not be higher stakes, except for my next book, in which the stakes are literally being lost in temporal space. Yeah, pretty high stakes. But that's how it feels to be queer in a place that you're not sure if you can be.
What I also liked about this book was because it was fun. It's romantic. Many LGBTQ plus books have always been either tragic. There's either death or someone dies of AIDS, and not to minimize those books and those stories, but it was very refreshing to read something fun and that you could really just embrace. Yeah. Why did you decide to go down that route? I know you talked about it earlier.
I mean, listen, I came up on the most depressing queer media, and I say that with so much love. The way that I cherished my copy of Brokeback Mountain that I stole from Blockbuster and hid in the bottom drawer of my desk, because that was what was out there for a long time, for especially if you're a young queer person who doesn't have a lot of queer people around you, and you're searching and searching for something to understand what is boiling inside of me. It's media sometimes is the access that you have to queer community as you're figuring yourself out and building up the courage to put yourself out there into physical community. And so, yeah, I mean, I love depressing queer fiction as much as anyone, and I mean, who amongst us has not taken queer lit and had to read The Well of Loneliness? I mean, but for me, that was not what I wanted to create, and it was not the space I wanted to spend my mental time in. And it was 2016, 2017, and I mean, everything sucked. And I needed somewhere to retreat to that was just fun and light and joyful and that felt like just chewing Skittles all day long, that was what I needed at the time. And so that was the feeling I chased, and I just kept chasing it, and it kept making me happy every time I opened that document. And I was like, if this makes me this happy to sit here and edit the same scene for the 15th time, then I hope it will make someone else happy when they read it. And I think that is something that the world needs right now. There's such a big, expansive queer experience out there, and I am happy to see every different facet of it, celebrated and explored, and that includes the joyful ones and the silly ones and the kind of corny ones. And it's okay to be corny. It's okay to be earnest. It's okay to be those things. I really want to embrace corniness. That's the era I'm in right now. Yeah. Wow, applause for being corny. Thanks, guys.
Let's talk about representation in books.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the LGBTQ plus part, one of the greatest things about the book is the president is a Hispanic woman. Why did you decide to make her Hispanic, and why was that very important to you?
I hate to do this, but I do have to fact check you slightly. I'm so sorry. But Ellie Claremont is white.
Oh, you're right.
She's a white lady, and that's
she's half. Yeah.
She is her husband is Mexican, and so Alex is half white, half Mexican. But I thought it was really important to have To me, like the having a Mexican first family felt really important, especially at the time that I was writing it. If we can recall some of the things that were in the news cycle at the time, and it came about very naturally because I was like, what kind of first family do I want to have? Like, do I want to have these like Cape Cod Kennedy, like, you know, jerk offs, or do I, respectfully? I'm so sorry. I'm sure that John F. Kennedy has been in this room, and I'm so sorry. Loved your cameo in Oppenheimer, King. Anyway, so Kennedys. But I decided I didn't want to do that because I thought it was boring. I thought I'd seen it before, and I was like, as a Southerner, and as somebody who has a chip on their shoulder about progressives in red states, I wanted to do a Texan president from like small town Texas, like, you know, grew up on a military base, and I'm like looking through my mental Rolodex of everyone I've ever met in Texas, because I've spent a lot of time in Texas. And it felt really natural that they would have this like sort of blended, you know, Mexican and white family that was coming up out of like central Texas, out of like Travis County. And it just came about really naturally, and it made so much sense, and I feel like it informed so much of like why Alex tries so damn hard, because he has so much to prove, and he has so much on his shoulders, and he has to bear the weight of that. And it just like, that was why it just made so much sense to me to let that naturally unfold out of them being a Texas family and being Texas Democrats, because every Texas Democrat I've ever met, you know, is that way, and is really deeply invested in issues that affect those people. So that was what I was trying to explore there.
The book clearly is, you know, about Henry and Alex here, but also the supporting cast. I think the relationship between the two men is important, but their relationships with their families and friends is kind of the other layer of this story. So
That's JFK.
yeah, I know. He is not happy. Why did you decide to enhance their stories as well?
The supporting cast. I love an ensemble comedy. I just do. I love just like a jolly band of misfits, and in this case, it is a jolly band of misfits who are like some of the most powerful people in the world, and that is fun, and that is delicious to dig your teeth into, and I had so much fun doing it. Like, to me, I don't understand why you wouldn't spend all that time building out your supporting characters, because it's indulgent, it's fun, it's like, sometimes I will pick a supporting character and be like, I'm going to spend a day with this person, and I'm going to sit down and be like, what is your deal? And then the things that like will come pouring out of that character that I had no idea were going to fill them in will just come, and it is exciting. It is one of the most fun parts of writing, and it makes the world feel real, and it makes you cannot have the love story be on every single page of a book, because it's just exhausting. Like, these characters have to have lives outside of each other.
And gay friendships are very important too.
Yes, well, yes, of course. I mean, like, that is, I mean, I was just talking today in an interview about how so much of the queer experience is about reaching out. And like I was talking about earlier, about reaching out for community. And I think it's, when we talk about wish fulfillment in books, you know, a lot of times wish fulfillment can look like, what if I lived in a world where I had people I could talk to who I didn't have to translate who I am to them, you know? And so I want to give my readers that, and if they have it, I want to see them. I want them to see it reflected, and if they don't have it, I want them to see, you know, this is something that exists and that I could have and that I can strive and reach for.
3 years ago at the Kennedy Center, we were talking about LGBTQ plus stories and authors and their representation at that time. So, you know, back then, it's hard to believe that this was 3 years ago. Most of the books back then, as you mentioned, like was Brokeback Mountain, centered around gay white men. And we were complaining that there's not that much representation among lesbian characters and lesbian writers or trans characters. 3 years later, I think we've taken a little step. We see more authors like Alejandro Varela and, and Meredith Talusan and Nisi Shawl and Roxane Gay. Um, Ironically, now that we're telling more stories, it's one of those cases that one step forward, two steps back. There's this
Yeah.
movement of people wanting to ban their stories. And how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try not to get like really mad as I talk about book bans, but this is just something that is so transparently bad faith and so clearly like a test to see like how far can we get, how close can we get to legislating people out of existence. Let's start with ideas of people, let's start with depictions of people, and that is very scary and it's infuriating and it is nauseating that it is wrapped in this sort of fake concern for the morals of children, who are doing active shooter drills in their schools, but they can't hear about someone with they, them pronouns. That's seems a little bit ass backwards to me. I can't imagine what it is like. Like, as an author, I'm like, this sucks. As a person, and a queer person, and non-binary person who looks at the world around them and imagines how people like me will continue to exist in it, it really sucks. And I think about kids who, like, I can't imagine what it would be like to be a closeted trans kid and to see books about people like you wheeled out of your school library and hear your parents making phone calls or railing about how people like you are, impugning on the innocence of our youth. I mean, I hope that those kids have the support that they need, and I hope that those kids can get what they need outside of the home, and I hope, and unfortunately often what those kids need outside of the home is books. And when we cut off their access to those things, we are cutting off their access to themselves and their access to a healthy and fulfilling life where they get to, I mean, not even just like be themselves, but like have the energy to like go to school and get good grades or make something of themselves or I don't know, cook an omelet. Like, I just like, it is exhausting to look around and feel like you cannot exist as the person you are anywhere but inside your own head. And that is not a thing I wish on any child, and it's absolutely disgusting that anybody would make a child feel that way by being so self-righteous about what they imagine or have been convinced is harmful to the children. And it's, quite frankly, one of the most infuriating things happening in this country right now, in my opinion. And you should all support your local librarians and your local teachers who are the front lines in this battle. Apologies to our beautiful interpreter who had to sign so fast as I was ranting. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
And on behalf, of course, of librarians across the country, we applaud your support.
We love librarians.
I do want to read something that I'm not giving anything away because you saw me, I'm at the last sentence. It's
literally the last page.
It's in your acknowledgments, and I kind of feel like
okay.
it's your little love letter to the readers, actually.
Oh.
You write, to every person in search of somewhere to belong, to happen to pick up this book, I hope you found a place in here, even if just for a few pages. You're loved. I wrote this for you. Keep fighting, keep making history, keep looking after one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
that is still how I feel, yes.
Let's lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, something came out of me.
Okay, so why do you think America is obsessed with the royal family? And
I mean, we all have that one ex, right? I do think it's because it's like something kind of glamorous that we don't have. And we grow up watching Disney movies and seeing princes and princesses in Disney movies. And especially my generation, we grew up with like William and Harry and Diana and My Date with the President's Daughter, and like The Prince and Me, and all of these things. I mean, I think that like it's such a natural cultural byproduct of those things, but it is also, I think, a little bit in our DNA to be like, hey, you remember me? Like, you remember when like you and I were involved? I guess, I mean, I don't know. We also just are so nosy as a people.
And when this book came out, at the same time Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were getting married and everything
Yeah.
that followed after that, there's something a little bit in here that kind of mirrors what happened to them.
It's so funny you should say that because okay, to like give you a timeline. So I started writing this book in early 2016. I finished it in late 2017. And at that time, they had never even announced their courtship officially. I don't know if you guys recall, but they didn't announce it officially until they were like getting engaged. And I literally remember finishing the last page of like the first draft of the book and like going to bed and waking up the next morning and like looking at my phone. And this is before the world exhausted me so much that I turned off my push notifications for news. And the first notification I saw was like, Prince Harry announces engagement to Meghan Markle. And I'm like, you're telling me that the second prince, whose name begins with H and ends with Y, whose Christian name is Henry, which I didn't know, oops, is marrying a biracial American who is famous of her own right. And I have to act like I thought of that first. It's very serendipitous and I do think that like on some level I might like have manifestation powers, which is a heavy burden to bear. Yeah.
So throughout the book, you make reference clearly because it's parts of it is set in Washington, of course, at the White House.
Yes.
But it also represents the value of queer representation in books and in history. And Alex makes references to it throughout the book. Why did you decide to do that? Of course, we love it here, living in D.C. That's all in the book.
I mean, I think that one of the most important things in a book and one of my favorite things in a book is setting. I really think setting is so important, and in a book like this, and with a character like Alex, who's so deeply invested in politics and in his mom's career and in the future of our country, DC is kind of a character in itself to him. He thinks about the history of every building he looks at. He thinks about the history of every room in the White House. I mean, I can't tell you, I am sure I'm on some watch list because I looked at the map of the White House and every floor of it for so many times, reading about this 20 years ago it was used for this and 30 years ago it was used for this. Like I had that thing memorized. And even now I walk into DC and it's like on one level I'm like, wow, history. And on another level I'm like, this must be how people feel when they study Greek mythology and then set foot in the under the pillars of history for the first time when they go to Greece. I'm like, this is just like in the book. It's wow. It's like it's a real place. But I don't know. It just felt so. Again, I mean, a lot of these answers are just, it was fun. I think if you want to be a good writer who does good craft, you have to have a love of doing craft. And for me, writing setting is fun. And it was fun to be a nerd about that stuff and to learn the Taft family used the sunroom as a sleeping room on hot nights because they didn't have air conditioning. So it used to not have windows at all. It was just open air with curtains. That's interesting information. So.
Speaking of settings, you chose the White House and Buckingham Palace, which are usually not queer spaces. Well, maybe the Buckingham Palace, that is. But why was that important
Buchanan
for
would
you?
like a word.
To use these usually traditionally non-queer spaces as a wonderful setting.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I was really interested in when I was writing the book, and like when I was going through all of these historical love letters, was how much of queer history is just hiding in plain sight, and how deeply and indelibly entwined with our history queerness is, and how many powerful and influential people in history have been queer, and I would argue their queerness was part of what made them great, because it motivated them in certain ways, or it allowed them to see the world in the ways that they need to see the world to do the things that they did. I wanted that to be present in the book. Like, so much of this book is just hyper reality. It is parade floats and confetti and like Technicolor and bigger than life. And then I wanted there to be this grounding in like historical context for this too. Like, it needs to be underpinned with something real, or else it's just like, how do you engage with that? How do you feel something as a reader? And also, it was fun. There's something really fun about just like being like, I'm gonna take your establishment and I'm gonna rub my gay little hands all over it, and I'm gonna make it queer, and I'm gonna make it trans, and you're gonna hate it. But we're gonna love it.
I should say, though, on behalf of the library, we love that you gave us a shout out in here.
Oh, yeah.
It says, he's part of it all now, headlines and oil paintings and pages in the Library of Congress. Etched right alongside.
Yeah. I didn't even realize. Wow.
So,
Meta.
clearly I had a tab it.
Wow, it's like, wow, that's like a big moment for me. I didn't even realize that I was doing that today.
So before we take questions from the audience, I do want to say, because of the success of this book, do you ever want to write a sequel about
Oh
it?
my God. Why are you setting
we're in
me
the
up
world
like
of
this?
multiverses now and universes. Do you want to, would this
Oh
continue
yes,
on?
the CMQ universe. I hate myself for saying that. I was a stupid joke. It was a stupid joke. I mean, I do in my head, and if you buy the collector's edition, there is like a scene where I kind of like slyly confirm that all three of my books take place in the same universe, because there's a moment where like Alex orders pancake takeout, like breakfast takeout, and it's implied that the diner he orders from is Billy's from One Last Stop, and then the delivery girl is like this unimpressed young woman with pink hair and a southern accent who clearly is Shara. And which, if you didn't get that, like, surprise. And so I do feel like I've expanded the universe a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't never say never to a sequel, because like I love these characters and people love these characters, and it's always fun to revisit it. But I really am like so excited about like my next book, and I'm so excited about like how much I can stretch myself as a writer and like show my range and show people new things. And like I want to do more stuff with like gender, and I want to do more like weird stuff, and as much as I love this book is kind of my pop album. Like I always joke with my editor, like, this is my pop album, and then like One Last Stop is my indie record, and then I guess Shara Wheeler is like my like hit clips that they used to sell at Limited too. I'm so sorry for all the Zoomers here. That was a deep cut.
You'll have to do an Eras tour of your books, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think my next one is like my like weirdly erotic Italian opera. So yeah, so I want to. I mean, I like I said, I would never say never, but there's a lot of stuff I want to do first.
So when you come back here in a couple of years, when you write the sequel, we're going to roll that video. So I should say, I was talking about earlier about the Library of Congress's LGBTQ plus collection. So as part of that story, as I mentioned, we have these amazing items. We want, Casey's giving us a special gift to the library. I do want to call my colleagues here, Nicholas Brown, who's one of our lead senior curators here at the Library of Congress, and Solomon Haile Selassie, who is the chair of the library's LGBTQ plus staff association, to accept these special treasures that will be added to the library. So.
I'll step aside here. Thanks so much for doing this. You too. Thank you, thank you. This is solo. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Casey, for considering the library for hosting this event and for being a part of your continued journey. Many of us got to be at your event back at the Kennedy Center, and the library is a really special organization that has an important role in preserving our community's history that many might not know about, and that is in large part due to the work of our staff. Back in 1994, a group of library staff who were openly or not openly LGBTQ+, started a group called LC Globe, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary next year. LC Globe is the library's LGBTQ+ staff association, and for many years, these were staff members who were having to work somewhat subversively on the inside to start advancing the acquisition of LGBTQ+ collection items, as well as putting on programs and making sure that our stories are central to the telling of the American story for eternity, truthfully. And there are many colleagues in the house here tonight who I'd like to give a shout out for, but just briefly, the Rare Book and Special Collections Division, current and former staff who started an LGBTQ+ publishing acquisitions program have been instrumental in this work. And you can check out up on the mezzanine level an exhibit called Pride in Publishing that gives you a glimpse of some of these wonderful treasures that tell our story. So we are—
It's today, though.
It closes— oh, well, we'll sneak you up there. You go today. But you'll have to come back and see that. And one of the important things that happens when we get wonderful visitors like Casey is that we get to accept amazing collection items to continue this legacy of storytelling, which is what we're all about, and creating the opportunities for you all to discover the stories that have been a part of our history. So on behalf of the Library of Congress, collections folks, and also on behalf of LGBTQ+ Staff Association, LC Globe, we're so honored to receive these books and add them to the national collection, and we encourage everyone in the audience to come back and research at the library, experience the collections, experience our events, and continue to be a part of our story together. Thank you, Casey. Thank you. And we're gonna take a picture. Should we each hold one?
All right. We did our part. Now it's your turn. Again, if you have questions for Casey, please write them down. We have my colleagues here, Rebecca, that can give you a little sheet of paper here with your pencils. So just hand it back to them once you're done writing it, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can in the next 10 minutes. So they're coming down the aisle here. So
The next 10 minutes, I have to
so
talk less.
have you seen the movie?
I have, yes.
So I guess we're all excited to see it this Friday. I know I asked you this earlier. So what was your feelings when you finally saw them?
Well, I was sitting
Alive.
I was sitting physically next to Matthew because it was like he invited me personally to sit in a screening room in Manhattan when it was a very rough cut and showed it to me. And so my main feeling was Matthew smells so good. He definitely uses Le Labo. And I was like, Centol 33 King. No, you guys have to know more about Le Labo because there's a Centol 33 joke in the script, and no one laughed at it at my screening, and I was the only one who was that's such a good joke. Anyway, that's all I can say for reasons.
Yeah, plus we don't want to give anything away. You
Yes.
just have to wait 3 more days.
Yes.
So if there are any available questions, just I'm ready for them. All right. So full confession, we were originally supposed to be in a smaller room. But because of the overwhelming response by Casey's fans, we moved it here to the auditorium. So it's wonderful to see all of you here tonight. Plus, we're just excited to have people back at the library. So.
I also have to say, I love your socks.
Well, thank you. I
you.
feel like the Wicked Witch of the East.
They're great. They're great. I feel like we're doing some fashion up here.
Oh, here we go. All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Those shoes are really cute. They've got, I don't know if you guys can see it, it's a wiener dog on the shoes. It's very cute.
All right. From Nikki here, the question is, what was your first reaction to finding out the book was becoming a movie?
Well, it was, this is going to sound crazy, but it was before the book came out. We actually, I sold the rights in March of 2019, and the book came out May of 2019. So I was like, I really hope people actually like the book, because this is gonna be awkward otherwise. It was extremely like, this is the wildest thing and the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. And I also need to like put it in a box in the back of my mind and like not think about it for a couple years, so I can think about literally anything else, because otherwise it's all I'm gonna think about. And they do a lot of like expectation managing when you option a book, and they're like, this probably won't ever get made. And so you kind of put it out of your mind. You're like, I can't count on that. I can't count on that. But in like deep down inside, it was like, it's gonna get made.
I like this question. What was your favorite historical love letter quote?
There's so many good ones, and it's really hard to pick one. But the one that's like stuck in my head lately, because I like have been rereading a little bit lately, due to timely reasons. I don't know if anyone could figure out why. I've been thinking about it. But the line "Shine back, honey, and think of me." I don't know why, it just gets me. It's like, it's such a good turn of phrase, and like the line before that is like, though I long for your physical body, I miss you like a home, or something like that. And that's just such a simple way to say you love someone. It's like, I miss you like a home, because like that just, it's like, what have you ever missed more than like your home when you're a kid? You know, that is just really beautiful to me.
I love this question because I thought of this too. From Lacey here, they ask, as a queer person with divorced parents, I loved Alex and want to know behind the decision for that character. I'm assuming the question is why you decide to make sure his parents were divorced.
The true answer to that is, I was talking to my friend Leah about it, who has divorced parents, and she was like, you should give him divorced parents. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give him divorced parents. My parents were together for 30 years, so I don't know. I can't really speak on being a child of divorce, but it did, to me, I kind of loved the idea of the president being like a divorced woman with like, her new husband just like does tablescapes. I loved that.
Janet, or Jeanette, says, hi, Casey.
Hi.
I've read your book approximately 11 times.
That's so many times.
What do you hope someone finds in every reread?
I like that question. I mean, I hope that every time you reread the book, I really just hope you find peace. You know, I think that's all, like, the thing I wish for all of my readers, and for queer people in general, most of all, is just peace. I hope that, like, it makes the world quiet for a minute, and it gives you something nicer. And that's what I hope for.
Natalie's asking, I know you said a sequel may not be likely.
How did you already write this, Natalie?
But what was your inspiration or motivation behind the extra scene in the collector's edition? I haven't read that part, so I'm kind of curious about it.
You haven't? Oh my
Yeah,
God. Okay. Well, first, I went through like so many different ideas for what the bonus chapter would be, and one of them was like, I wanted to do this concept of like how Alex and Henry would be together in like any timeline, any universe, and so I had like 12 different scenarios. I was gonna do like 500 words each of like, here they are, in like, imagine if, like instead June and B were the ones who fell in love, and like what would that be like for them? Like how would they find each other in that situation? Or like what if like they were in space? Or what if they were like old-timey prospectors, And that didn't pan out because the publisher was like, Casey, what? And I was like, fair. But this one was just like, I just had so many ideas in my head of like what their lives were gonna look like for like the next however many years. And I just like, I needed people to know. and I couldn't I couldn't guarantee I was ever going to write a full sequel, and I was like, I'm gonna give them everything I want them to know, like what's gonna happen to them next. And I also wanted to give it from Henry's point of view, because I feel like the book ends with like a lot of Alex's loose ends tied up, but Henry is just kind of beginning to reckon with like, I don't think I want to do this prince thing. And
Is he moving to Pasadena with a farm?
literally, okay, you're joking. That's literally
Santa
what
Barbara,
happens.
wherever
You
they-
haven't
yes.
read it, you don't know, but that's what happens. Actually, it's just not Pasadena. It's like this. It's like Westlake, Austin.
George is asking, I have to ask this question because we are at a library. What was the research process like for all of the historical references?
Oh my God. It was a lot of like very dry nonfiction. You guys don't even know how much I had to cut. And I'm so mad because it was like, I read like a whole book for like one scene where like Alex goes to class and attends a lecture on like the history of presidential sex scandals. And I had to cut the whole scene. And it was like, I was like, oh, I'm like so smart. I'm doing this like cheeky little foreshadowing. And my editor's like, Casey, no one cares. Like, we're here to see them make out. And again, fair. So, I mean, I was doing that. I was like I said, I was like memorizing the map of the White House. I was I watch a lot of like documentaries and YouTube videos, and I know like YouTube videos doesn't sound legit, but there are some actual like documentaries type work happening on there. I mean, it's been so long now, but I definitely read a lot of like historical love letters, like so many. I mentioned this in my acknowledgements, but if you're into the historical love letters element, there's like a database online that is like, if you search like My Dear Boy, and like, I'm blanking on this guy's name, but his name is in the acknowledgements. I think it's Richard something. Somebody can crack open the book and tell me what. Anyway, he compiled like hundreds and hundreds of historical love letters, and I poured through so many of those. And what I put in the book is just like such a you guys don't actually have to look it up. I can see you turning pages. Like, this is like, I respect you so much, and I love you, but it's okay. Yeah, I would advise everybody, like, search up My Dear Boy, and Rick Norton. Thank you. Oh, it's you. Hi.
She's probably a librarian, so that's why she got that quick.
Teacher, right?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite queer escapist books?
Okay, this is gonna sound weird because it's really not escapist, except that it's like not reality. But I'm such a huge fan of the Locked Tomb series. Wow, silence from the crowd. Gideon the Ninth, Harrow the Ninth, Noah the Ninth, Elector the Ninth coming soon. And it is about lesbian necromancers in space. And it is so weird and gross and dark and messed up and delightful and so much fun. And it is escapist in the sense that it transports you. And it's rare as an adult to feel transported the way you were when you were a kid reading fantasy books, and I feel that with this, but instead it's like adults and murder and necromancy and lesbians. And I feel like I want to stick with that answer because it makes me smile, so.
All right, I'm going to try to squeeze in two more questions here before we go. So this is a question from Logan. As a queer Texan, I love Alex very, very dearly. What makes you want to write about queer Southerners and do it so well?
Oh, thank you. Well, I am one. And that feels like really important to me. Like, being Southern and being queer feel like two extremely important parts of me that shape the way I see the world and has shaped who I am. And like, I believe from the bottom of my heart, and like, I don't know if this is a controversial thing to say, but like, I believe that the best people in the world are Southerners who are also progressive. Because, thank you. It's like, we have the sense of humor, and like, we've kind of had to really deliberately, I mean, in my case at least, and for a lot of people I know, really deliberately like work to deprogram yourself and avoid the types of things that program people down there, and to like cultivate and like learn, and you have to be really, you end up at some point being humbled, like just humbled, and you have to come by, you know, being you and being somebody who is good to other people who are marginalized through a lot of like deliberate work. And I think that makes you more deliberate in a lot of ways. And also, Southerners are more fun. I say this as someone from New York. I'm not from New York. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I know. I'm not a New Yorker. Sorry, there's a New Yorker on the front row who I know personally who's laughing at me. And I'm from Louisiana. I just, listen, people are not as fun up there. They're just not. I'm sorry.
Let's end on a lighter note.
Okay. That was light.
That was
light. I love
really, you'll love this.
crawfish boils. I love it. Yeah.
Why does Alex, or you, have against rugs and carpets?
What? I've been staring at this beautiful carpet, this beautiful rug. I literally at the hotel made my partner measure the rug in our room because I was like, oh, I want one just like this. So I don't know. I'm tired of these rumors casting aspersions on my character. I love rugs. Now, Alex, on the other hand, I suppose does talk some about some rugs, but in his defense, he is living in a very old house that probably has some ugly rugs in it. But I personally, the rumors stop here. I love rugs.
So thank you so much for coming tonight. Remember, the National Book Festival's this Saturday. Tonight, if you want your book signed by Casey, she'll be signing books outside. Remember where you came in to check in. She'll be behind that desk. And thank you again on behalf of the library, and we hope to see you soon. Take care.
Thank y'all.